All right, we will go ahead and get started. This is Sarah Ferreira here for tonight's live class, Food as Medicine to Reclaim Your Digestive Health. So glad that you could make it here tonight. We are going to be here for about 30 minutes or so. And so in that time, I'd encourage you to close down any distractions that you're able to, find a quiet place, and see if you can grab a pen and paper, because we will be getting into some details here to help you to truly reclaim better digestive and GI health. Here's a little bit about what we will be talking through. We'll be covering how you can use a functional nutrition approach to improve your digestion, talking a little bit about what that is, what that term even means. We'll think through how symptoms like allergies, joint pain, and even anxiety could be connected, not only to one another, but even to digestive health. This could blow your mind. How to move beyond 3 major digestive health myths that I hear what feels like all the time. We'll be doing a little myth busting this evening. We'll talk through how you can create a critical mindset shift for long-term digestive health that lasts. Not just another fad diet, right? Then we'll dive into a step-by-step program for applying the GI Restore model that I will be sharing with you, a model that I've been using for literally years now in my private practice to help with gas and bloating, stomach pain, all that stuff. So let's dive in, shall we? A little bit of a brief introduction first, so you know who I am. I am a registered dietitian by training and went on to complete some extra training in integrative and functional nutrition. This was a game changer for me, as it really filled in a whole lot of gaps that I felt I had in my education as a registered dietitian. Helped really shift my perspective. I'm a certified health and wellness coach, and so the way that I talk through things is hopefully tonight in terms of application, right? So you can actually use it, hit the ground running. And I do own my own private practice, Ferreira Functional Wellness, LLC, where my specialty is in helping women to use functional nutrition to heal their digestion, nourish their brain, and empower their eating. And really the truth is that a lot of my passion for how critical this information is because I have been there for many, 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 many years. I struggled with sugar cravings that felt overwhelming, really low energy and trouble with concentrating and focusing, this feeling of being really bloated and heavy after meals, like I was just gaining 10 pounds, right? Just from sitting down to eat something. And it was getting pretty old, but because I had been through nutrition school, right? I was becoming a dietitian. I thought, I'm doing everything I need to be doing everything right. It wasn't until I learned the functional nutrition model, functional nutrition tools, did some testing on myself, started doing some self-experimentation, that my physical health and symptoms really started to turn around, including some of that brain fog, that bloating, and just that sense of blah, right? Be gone, right? Who needs that? So if any of this sounds familiar, you are in the right place. If you know me, you know I just have to find a way to put a picture of a cat in my PowerPoint. So this might be how you feel, like this charming, charming guy here. If you have gas and bloating after practically every single food that you eat, so frustrating and really common, it seems. If your doctor's advice to eat more fiber only makes your bloating worse, how many times have you heard that one? If you are stuck on an acid suppressing medication like Prilosec and you can't get off, you've tried, but every time you do, your reflux just gets worse. If you're planning your social life around constipation and diarrhea, never knowing what the heck your body is going to do, and or if you are struggling to break free from a bunch of mystery symptoms that seem to get worse when your digestion is acting up. The truth is that most of the conventional advice about how to address digestive issues is so limited. It's like a pill for every ill model. We're going to think differently this evening. So, when you think about the conventional approach to treating most conditions or concerns or diseases, many times it's more of a Band-Aid type approach, right? Just take care of the symptoms by silencing them as much as possible. So if you're having some pain, take a painkiller. If you're having some diarrhea, just stop the diarrhea up, right? If you're having some constipation, take a laxative. But the truth is that these solutions, quote unquote, aren't really solving the whole problem, right? They're just covering up the symptoms that are still there at the end of the day. So I would propose to you that the real solution for many of these digestive health concerns is to find your individual root cause or causes. And this is really what functional nutrition and functional medicine are all about. They're a whole new way of looking at symptoms that consider why symptoms are happening in the first place. A common picture that's shown when it comes to functional medicine is this iceberg image. So you may have seen this before, where the symptoms are what we are able to see, right? Just like if you had this huge iceberg, there's so much under the surface, but all you can see is really just the tip. Really similar for a lot of our different illnesses and diagnoses, where we might be able to see or feel those symptoms like bloating, gas, constipation, abdominal pain. But in fact, underneath, contributing causes or root causes can be things like chronic inflammation, digestive imbalances, gut imbalances. In this case specifically, we'll talk more about that. And even something like detoxification issues. Really, really nice idea here. Functional medicine asks how and why illness occurs and restores health by addressing the root causes of disease for each individual. Pretty different, right? Than what you may have, the way you may have addressed symptoms before. So we will continue to talk about functional nutrition and functional medicine as we move through a few of these digestive health myths that are oh so common and that keep people really, really stuck. Okay, so the first digestive health myth is this. Symptoms like joint pain, fatigue, and bloating have nothing to do with each other. For those of you who have not heard this term, intestinal permeability, I just took this screenshot for you before we jumped on this call. This is something that when clients come to me, my private practice, most of them have not heard about it. So I don't think it's really being talked about in a lot of like GI docs' offices, but it sure should be. Because this is a screenshot from pubmed.gov, which is this really big research depository, this huge collection of research studies. And as you'll see here, when I typed in intestinal permeability, there were, approaching 8,000 results in humans around intestinal permeability, looking at the connection between health and disease and how to address it. So what is that, and what does it have to do with these seemingly unconnected symptoms? Well, here's the thing. In our GI tracts, in both our small and large intestines, we have all of these cells. And you can see in the picture to the left here, these green cells, which are called our epithelial cells. And what should be happening is that those cells should be able to open up just a tiny bit, or they should have these pores in between them that allow in things that our body needs, like nutrients, water. Those things should be able to get into our bloodstream. We should be able to digest, absorb, all as well. When things go wrong in between these epithelial cells, there can start to be these disruptions in the gates that hold these cells together. So you'll see there the phrase tight junction. Tight junctions are these gates in between these epithelial cells that keep the not so good stuff out, but allow the good things in. When these tight junctions or gates begin to break down, and all of a sudden, other things other than nutrients and water are able to get in, trouble can ensue. The types of things that can come through this broken kind of cell, this gate, so to speak, are things like food particles, food proteins, bacteria, right? Viruses, pathogens of different sorts. When those guys get in between your cells, what happens is that your immune system starts to go on overdrive. So you'll see underneath the cells there, you have T cells and macrophages, dendritic cells, cells that are really critical to a coordinated immune response. So all of a sudden, your immune system starts to say, whoa, 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 what is this? And starts to secrete or give out all of these different inflammatory molecules that do not only begin to cause symptoms, but this whole phenomenon has been tied to many, 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 many different diseases because a breach in intestinal barrier function, gates or tight junctions that aren't working well, creates immune system dysregulation. So some of the medical conditions that have been associated with leaky gut syndrome or intestinal permeability or poor intestinal barrier function are celiac disease, type 1 diabetes, Crohn's disease, a number of autoimmune diseases, including something like rheumatoid arthritis, asthma, irritable bowel syndrome, food allergies and intolerances, and even obesity and metabolic syndrome. So this concept is important as we move forward because in just a minute, we'll be talking about what functional medicine does to ensure healthy gut function. And intestinal barrier function is one of the places that we look. So digestive health myth 2 is that a low FODMAP diet should solve your bloating problem. If I had $5 for every time I have heard this, for those of you who are not familiar with a low FODMAP diet, I'll give you a really brief synopsis. The low FODMAP diet is really low in certain types of carbohydrates that the bacteria in our guts eat for us. And so if your gut is really out of balance, maybe if you have some bacteria that shouldn't be there, bacteria are in the wrong places, all of a sudden, when those bacteria are breaking down these special types of carbohydrates, it can cause all types of symptoms like gas and bloating and abdominal pain and diarrhea. So the low FODMAP diet was designed to help to eliminate or reduce these symptoms by bypassing the issue. Now, there is a time and a place for a low FODMAP diet. In combination with some of the root cause work, it can be really helpful. But you're better off if you can really get to some of the deeper root causes, right? Because at the end of the day, one of the principles of functional medicine nutrition, is that we're trying to restore function to the body, not just to create restriction or to sidestep issues, but to help your body to work better. And so some of the places that we would look when we're trying to restore this function would be intestinal barrier function. We just talked about that. We look at other reasons for poor digestion. So potentially instead of a low FODMAP diet, do you have a problem with breaking down complex carbohydrates because you don't have the right enzymes on board, right? It's because you don't have the right bacteria to break those carbohydrates down. We look at microbial balance, right? So what I was just saying about there being an overgrowth sometimes of certain bacteria, that can cause those symptoms that a low FODMAP diet is just sidestepping. High levels of inflammation, which can cause a lot of sensitivity in your gut and cause some trouble with digesting those carbohydrates. We're looking at nutrients for barrier function and also for motility to make sure you're able to move things through at the right pace, elimination and stress and resilience. And so I just want to invite you, if you're someone who's been following any kind of super restricted diet for a long period of time, including a low FODMAP diet, to think about your digestive tract as being something that you can support. And as you kind of think through all these different factors, I'd be curious to know which of these have you addressed, which of them have you thought through, and where could there be some room to further improve your body's barrier function or function altogether, right? Digestive health myth number 3. What you eat does not really impact your digestion. So, I don't believe this. If you're on this call, you probably don't believe this either. But this is something that's commonly said, right? We hear it from, again, GI doctors, other health professionals, because they just don't really see the picture in the same way, right? But in functional nutrition, we are thinking of food as information. This graphic is from Field to Plate from Amanda Archibald. She has outlined all of these different ways in which the food that we eat can impact the way that our GI tract reacts or responds. And so she mentions here in this image that certain foods and herbs are antimicrobial, right? If we're having some trouble in our guts with the wrong type of bacteria, those can really help. A couple ingredients like slippery elm and aloe vera can be really soothing. We didn't talk about this yet, but we also need a nice protective mucin layer in our gut, and those can help with that. Things like fennel seeds, peppermints can help to cut down naturally on gas production. Certain nutrients are essential for that gut lining. So just a minute ago, when we talked about that barrier function and those gates and those tight junctions, those are really nutrient hungry. So things like glutamine and zinc and vitamin A and vitamin D, those nutrients are essential to making sure those gates are only letting in nutrients and not the not so good stuff. So a couple of examples of foods and nutrients that can help to heal that gut lining by improving barrier function: bone broth, eggs, fish, liver, poultry, etc. And then on the left, she's talking here about probiotic-rich foods, prebiotic-rich foods, soluble fiber-rich foods, all things which help to grow and improve the variety, the quantity of good bacteria that help us to break down our food and which also help to control inflammation. And then up at the very, very top, fats and oils, omega-3 fatty acid-rich foods are important to digestive health because they help to quell some of those inflammatory molecules that might pop up, and they help to maintain a healthy inflammatory balance in our gut, which in turn helps to maintain that nice barrier function with those tight junctions. So really, really fascinating stuff. And these are just some examples of how food can be used as information and how it can really strategically support our digestive health. So just go ahead and kind of take a minute, take a breath, and let all this settle. Lots of information, lots of details. You might be considering that a mindset shift could be in order here. If you're someone who has been struggling with digestive symptoms for a while, and you have tried what seems like everything, right? Every medication. Maybe you've tried a couple of dietary changes, low FODMAP diet or different types of elimination diets, and you just haven't yet seen the improvement that you were hoping for. If this is you, let me offer you two questions that can be really helpful for supporting digestive health over the long term. So, number one, why are your symptoms happening? What are the root causes that are at play? And number two, how can you help to support your body to function better? What might that take based off what you might be missing? If you're not really sure of the answers to those questions, that's okay. You're not alone. It's a lot to think through. And often it does take some time to really figure it out. That's why there's this really fantastic framework called the 5R framework, or sometimes called the 5R program. That's really common, again, in functional medicine circles, which can help us to think through some of the dynamics that could be at play. And so for any given person, for you, if you're struggling with digestive health, first you'd want to think, what is it that I might want to remove from my diet, from my lifestyle, from my gut terrain, from what's going on in there? Do I need to bring in something like an elimination diet, or do some food sensitivity testing, or do some gut testing to see what kind of bacteria are in there? Are there other things in my life that I know are making my digestion worse, like high levels of stress, for instance? A second consideration would be to replace. Am I short in digestive enzymes or hydrochloric acid to break down protein? Have I been on PPIs for a long period of time, Prilosec or other acid suppressing medications? Do not have a gallbladder, which is really important for digesting protein and fats, et cetera. It can be lots of different, as you see, different considerations that go into this: diet, medications, even aging. The third consideration is reinoculation. Where can you help beneficial bacteria to flourish, right? Because you want enough of those good guys to maintain healthy levels of inflammation, to help you to break down your food, and to help maintain that barrier function. So where are you getting in probiotic foods? Are you feeding the good bacteria by getting in enough of these special prebiotic fibers, right, to help keep them alive and thriving? A fourth consideration would be repair. Do you have the ingredients, the nutrients in your diet, in your supplement regimen that are helping your GI tract to constantly repair itself and keep that lining nice and tight? Kind of a fun fact, all those different cells, those epithelial cells, they turn over. They replace themselves every few days. And so we really constantly need the substrate. We need the ingredients to rebuild, repair, and make sure that our bodies can keep everything where it needs to be, with strength of the lining and strength of the tight junctions. So a few ingredients there: vitamins A, C, E, fish oil, glutamine. And then a fifth consideration is rebalance. I was just recently listening to a webinar where the presenter was saying that when they have done everything for digestive health, right? They've done the diet, all the supplements, lots of time has passed, and someone is still not getting better. This is where they go, in high intensity. Because sometimes we take it for granted that the lifestyle factors can influence our digestive tract to a huge degree. So things like sleep and exercise, stress resilience and stress management are so critically important. So when I'm thinking about bringing someone through a process, I'm going to give you a little bit of a sneak peek here into how I apply all this or think through it. What I'm going for is I'm going for a change in gut structure and function. And so I'm wanting anyone that I'm working with to have a really healthy gut lining for reasons we've already talked about, normal and stable intestinal microbiome, lots of good bacteria, not too many of the bad guys. I want to make sure that they are effectively digesting and absorbing their food and what they're eating so they can get the nutrients and so that undigested food doesn't cause symptoms. I want to help them to ensure an effective immune status, so nutrition for immune system function and also working on some of the lifestyle factors that can influence. And also, I'm thinking about getting levels of inflammation down where they need to be for our bodies to be able to just heal, right? Do that cell turnover and do any repair work that needs to happen. And so all of this together often takes a multi-pronged approach. And so in my practice, this is really the sequence of kind of steps or strategies that I'm often working people through. So I'm going through a root cause-based nutritional assessment, where I'm thinking, what is it that could be causing issues for this individual? Are there risk factors in their diet, their lifestyle, their medication regimen that could be causing poor absorption, that could be causing poor digestion, that could be causing their GI tract not to be moving at the right speed, motility issues, we would call those. Often I'm bringing in food sensitivity testing and then doing a targeted immunocom elimination diet based off of those results. Provide lots of coaching through food selection and preparation and supplementation for improved digestive defenses to make sure that barrier function is nice and strong. Providing lots of fuel for a healthy microbiome. So the prebiotics, the probiotics, right? Get those levels of good bacteria up. And then, as we've talked about, the anti-inflammatory lifestyle with stress, sleep, mindfulness, and movement. So if you have not heard of mediator release testing, this MRT, this food sensitivity testing, I want to tell you a little bit about this because I have seen such incredible symptom drops in such a short period of time using these results. So here's the down low, that when we eat something that our body is not loving, that it's reacting to, what can happen is we release a whole bunch of these different inflammatory molecules. There are tons of them. And so this test tests for a handful, and based off of how many of these inflammatory mediators are being released, you get back this printout of 170 different foods and food chemicals, where the lowest reactive foods, the foods with the lowest production of inflammatory molecules, are the really short green bars. And as you can imagine, the foods with the highest amount of inflammatory mediators are these yellow or red or high green bars. And the way the immunocom diet works that I just referenced there is that you start with the foods that have the lowest inflammatory potential, and that's what you build your diet around while you are doing some of the background work, right? The gut repair, the gut function work, overall anti-inflammatory lifestyle. And the idea is that you can bring your symptoms down, get your body in a much better place, clear the slate so you can see which of your symptoms are more inflammatory in nature, and then see what work is left to be done. So I'll share a couple of quick successes with you. Number one, within a week, this is Mary Ann, of starting the program with MRT, GI Restore program. My energy was better than it had been in many years. My brain worked better than ever, and I had less pain everywhere. It was incredible. Marianne was struggling with psoriatic arthritis, really incredible symptom reduction. Jane says, I was so frustrated that I was almost always constipated and chewed Gas X with every meal. Within 3 days of beginning the program with Sarah, I felt better. And this feeling accelerated every day. So really quick wins, thanks to the inclusion of the food sensitivity testing. It's really, really great to see. And so part of the reason I wanted to host this webinar tonight is because moving into 2020, I'm going to try for the first time ever adapting this successful GI Restore program into a group program to reach more people, to make it more accessible. And so I want to tell you a little bit about this in case what we've talked about so far has resonated with you. The way I'm designing this program is with inclusion of the mediator release testing, the food sensitivity testing. So you have those results very quickly into the program and can start using them for hopefully some quick wins. We'll be talking step by step through how to use those food sensitivity results, how to move into the immunocom diet that goes along with results to really reduce and drop any inflammatory symptoms. We'll have 5 training calls together as a group to learn foundations of supporting digestive health. I am going to include a one-on-one call for symptom review so that we can talk through your specific response and just see if there's anything like really unique to you we need to consider. And then specific tips and strategies throughout for common digestive symptoms, things like constipation, right? I'll share a little bit about what tends to work really well in my experience. So just imagine if this was you, if you could reduce reflux, if you could have less gas and bloating, finally feel light and comfortable after eating again, and could leave the Tums at home. Thank you. This could be a huge game changer, right? Imagine what would be different for you. So here is the schedule. This group GI Restore program is going to begin on January 18th. It is a Saturday at 9 a.m. Eastern, and calls will be every other week. They will be recorded, so you can watch the recording if needed. The one exception will be the week of 2/15, where we'll do our one-on-one phone chats. The reason that's there is because you will have really just started with LEAP. You'll have had a few days kind of on phase 1 of the immunocom program, and so I'll just want to hear how you're doing, what's happening for you before we move into some of the foundational work. So after that phone chat, we'll be beginning to talk as a group about digestion, absorption, and what can go wrong. So you can kind of go through that mental checklist, like, okay, what could be some of my root causes and what can I do about them? The week after, 2 weeks after, we'll be talking about intestinal permeability ingredients for a healthy gut barrier. And then foundations to reinoculate. So we're just working through some of that 5R program, talking about how to incorporate pre and probiotic rich foods for those healthy gut bacteria and plenty of them. And then toward the end, we will be closing with some tips and ideas about how to transition, continue to reintroduce foods, and just maintain an overall anti-inflammatory diet and lifestyle so that the hope is you can maintain digestive health for the long term. Something that's really great about the way this can be designed is that we'll have a group chat. So anytime you have some trouble, you're not really sure about something, you're confused, you can just go in, drop a message, and I'll be there, the group will be there, and we can help you out. So if this sounds like it could be right up your alley, I hope it is. Your next step will be to check your email. In just about 10 minutes or so, I'll be sending out this initial symptom survey where you can go through and just let me know a little bit about what is going on with you. Because I want to make sure that whatever it is that your symptoms are doing would be a good fit for this program. If not, I'll help you to find another direction. But after I have this, after you fill this out, I'll get in contact with you. We can schedule, either a phone chat, we can text, we'll find a way to just get in contact and figure out, is this the best next step for you? What questions do you have, and how do you want to move forward? So that is it for me tonight. Thank you so much for not only being here, but staying through till the end. I hope to be able to speak with you via phone over the next few days. And again, I will be sending the link to this initial symptom survey in just a few minutes. So keep an eye out to your email. All right. All right. Very best. Have a great evening and Happy New Year to you. Bye-bye.